Welcome to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. I'm your host, Molly Watts. If you want to change your drinking habits and create a peaceful relationship with alcohol, you're in the right place. This podcast explores the strategies I use to overcome a lifetime of family alcohol abuse, more than 30 years of anxiety and worry about my own drinking, and what felt like an unbreakable daily drinking habit. Becoming an alcohol minimalist means removing excess alcohol from your life so it doesn't remove you from life. It means being able to take alcohol or leave it without feeling deprived. It means to live peacefully, being able to enjoy a glass of wine without feeling guilty and without needing to finish the bottle. With science on our side, we'll shatter your past patterns and eliminate your excuses. Changing your relationship with alcohol is possible. I'm here to help you do it. Let's start now. Well, hello and welcome or welcome back to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast with me, your host, Molly Watts, coming to you from, well, my friends, I am once again not in the Portland area here of Oregon. I'm actually not in Oregon at all. I'm up on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington, and it is pretty much the kind of way that I like a good summer day to be. It is a little bit gray and cloudy in the morning. I'm right out on the coastline, and it burns off to this beautiful sunny blue sky, warm afternoon, and it's been absolutely delightful. I am out here and I got to interview Dr. Brooke Scheller again this week and wanted to share this interview with you. For those of you that might remember, Dr. Scheller is a doctor of clinical nutrition, and she wrote a book called How to Eat to Change How You Drink, which is what first connected me with her. She also has a program called Functional Sobriety, and that has a lot of different resources, and you are welcome to check that out. We'll talk about that during the podcast, and I will, of course, link everything in the show notes. Today, I wanted to have a conversation or share the conversation that we had about alcohol and the GLP-1 medications. So GLP-1s are things that you've typically heard of, like Ozempic and Wegovy, and these drugs that are being really marketed to people to help people lose weight, people who are obese, and or also drugs that help treat diabetes. And the GLP-1s have really taken off over the last year and a couple of years. Allegorically, both Dr. Scheller and myself have heard from people who say that taking the GLP-1s helped change or decreased their cravings for alcohol. So I wanted to talk with Brooke about that and have an informed conversation. So that is exactly what we did. Here is my conversation with Dr. Brooke Scheller. Have a great day, and I will see you on Thursday. Good morning, Dr. Brooke Scheller. It is really great to see you again, and welcome back to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast.
Thank you for having me back, Molly. I always enjoy our chat, and so I'm happy to be here and happy to talk more about this topic today.
Yeah, I told you that I saw a blog post that you had written, and it was all about the GLP-1s. And this is a question that I know I've gotten. I know that you have gotten over the last year, because obviously they have just kind of stormed the, the world in terms of their popularity and their efficacy in helping people, especially people that are battling some obesity, or battling obesity. And this is really where they've found a niche and really have gained traction. Of course, then they've been used off label by people, and I think that's what you and I have heard. And people have been using them off label to reduce alcohol cravings. So let's talk about the GLP-1s, and I would love to have you share from your perspective kind of the pros and the cons, and are these things that people should just be, maybe not people that have alcohol use disorder, but anyone that's trying to change their relationship with alcohol? Is this something to consider?
Yeah, so this is such a great question, and I appreciate the openness to discuss the pros and the cons, right? Because I think a lot of times we look at these medications and we see the results that some people get, and it's easy to become really excited about using it and kind of we've always been searching for the magic pill. Yes. And in a lot of ways, this has like the magic pill effect, right? That a lot of people who have struggled with weight loss in the past can use this medication once a week and see results that they haven't been able to achieve with the standard diet lifestyle changes that have been successful for some, but not all. And what I think is so interesting about this topic is that there's so many amazing use cases for this medication, but as you mentioned, it's, a lot of times we use it off label. So originally this medication was FDA approved and used for diabetes because it helps with blood sugar management. It helps with slowing digestion, so regulating hunger. And in the early stages of using it, it was mostly used in diabetics. And what they recognized would happen in a lot of these folks was weight loss as a side effect. And so over time, as this became more prominent, and I think something that the industry realized there's more need for, they've kind of created versions of this medication that are then used specifically for weight loss purposes versus just simply the diabetic purposes. And I think these medications are really important and really helpful in people with obesity that have other health concerns as the result of that or as a side effect of that. And where I do caution and where I do think that it has become a little bit overpopularized is that someone who is in maybe more of the 15, 20 pounds weight loss category, is there something else that we can be doing? I'm a data science girl at heart, and I've worked with hundreds of people, hundreds of women who have struggled with metabolism and weight loss. And usually there's something else going on in the body, whether it's some kind of hormone imbalance, some kind of digestive concern, GI imbalance in the microbiome that is influencing their ability to lose weight. Sometimes I see that it's alcohol that is disrupting hormones. So taking the GLP-1 can kind of shortcut in some ways doing that. But there are a lot of side effects. And that's really where a lot of the cons come into this, is that we see a lot of side effects and people needing to take them long term, which can also be burdensome financially and just simply having to keep up with such a thing.
Well, yeah, I always think about this with the GLP-1s because I agree with you. There's a real true benefit, especially for people who have battled obesity for many years. But I, like you, not typically talking about the people that need to lose 15 to 20 pounds, really talking about people that need to lose 50 to 100 pounds, right? And there's a big difference there. And the question does become like, okay, so what happens when you reach your goal? You've gotten there. We hear a lot. I hear a lot again about rebound effect when you stop taking them. So is the answer then that we're going to be taking, people would be taking these GLP-1s for the rest of their lives?
Well, that's a good question. And some of that is a little TBD. I've heard some doctors say that yes, once you start taking it, you have to stay on it long term because of this rebound effect. What a lot of the discussion is about with the rebound effect is because it causes such rapid weight loss, it often causes breakdown of muscle in addition to the breakdown of fat. And that if we are not sustaining healthy muscle growth and development and function, then we end up with a shift to the body composition. Muscle helps us burn fat and keep weight and metabolism regulated. And so there's a lot of discussion around one of the cons of taking it is having that change in body composition. And there are ways to use it and ensure that you are doing a lot of muscle building activities and exercise and combating that effect. So that is one big concern for sure. And I think my experience thus far with clients who have used these medications is a little bit on a case-by-case basis. that some folks who come to me are continuing to take it even once they've hit their goal weight, and others have stopped taking it and now are dealing with some other effects from it. But one of the bigger side effects I see in folks is gastrointestinal issues. And I don't think that's something spoken about enough either. And I think that that's an important piece to discuss too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you and I talked about before we jumped on here, there was a study that came out in the early part of 2025, published by the JAMA Psychiatry, I think, publication. And it was really just looking specifically at the use for GLP-1s with regards to people with alcohol use disorder. And looking, and it was a very small study, but it was randomized and controlled. And they did see some positive impact in terms of reduced alcohol use and reduced cravings as compared to placebo. So we are seeing again, so this is the thing. It's like yes, there are some positive impacts, but there's also ways to do this. And I know you agree with me that don't require an injection, and you can get there doing things in a more natural way and with also changing your belief system around alcohol too. That's where I think that, a lot of work comes in. So let's talk about some of your best. So talk to me about the natural, I know there's all these ideas about natural GLP-1s, and also just the ideas about how we can get there and do the same exact thing without needing a GLP-1 to do it.
Well, what I find to be so interesting about this is this was the second, I think, popularized study on this. There was a study, I believe it was the year before, which was even smaller, that came out, and it was all over the news. It was all over the media. It was 6 people, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And it was that they had followed these people who had a history of alcohol consumption, were on these GLP-1 medications, and noticed a decrease in their alcohol cravings. And so that's, again, as we mentioned, kind of what prompts oftentimes future studies to happen. They say, oh, there's this effect that we weren't expecting. Now let's run larger trials to study that, because what do we want to do? We want to
science, sure,
be able to expand the audience of people who can take this medication. And I always caution people because, again, of the side effects of these things, GI-wise, rebound weight loss, hormone imbalances and things that can come as the side effect, but also from a behavioral standpoint, Molly, creating a healthier relationship with food, creating a healthier relationship with alcohol, those pieces are still really, really important. And what I find I end up suggesting in this case is not necessarily going to the GLP-1 as an immediate go-to or as the first choice. If you experience diabetes, if you have a significant amount of weight to lose and that is creating some health concerns for you, and you're struggling with alcohol, then maybe a GLP-1 is the right approach. Please talk to your doctor about it. There's so many online places you can just get this prescribed to you now. And I really, really caution that the long-term effects of this medication are still really unknown. And so making sure that it is the right thing for you, the right thing for your case. But as you mentioned, Molly, there are ways to support our body's natural production of GLP-1. Yes, our body makes GLP-1. When we take it as a medication, it's kind of bypassing the route of having to produce it and giving us in larger levels in the body. But what it's doing is it's helping to regulate hunger. It's slowing digestion, so it helps support us feeling full for longer. And it's also managing blood sugar. And Molly, that I talk a ton about blood sugar management as a strategy for minimizing alcohol cravings, because we don't realize oftentimes how much that hunger signal or that low blood sugar signal is the manifestation, or that is contributing to the craving. We don't realize that kind of intense need or desire is actually our body sending a signal that our blood sugar is low. So it makes sense to me in knowing the science behind alcohol and blood sugar and this medication and blood sugar that it would have that kind of influence on alcohol.
Yeah, you're like my favorite person because you tell me that I can have a snack in between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. like every day, and that it literally like makes it okay for not only okay, but like recommended, right? So let's talk about that, about blood sugar strategy, especially for that late afternoon craving window.
Yeah, I have women who swear by this, that it really helps to cure that happy hour afternoon craving. So do you really struggle with that 5 o'clock
Right.
somewhere time frame? You wanna, you're at the end of the day, it's, maybe stress driven as well. That stress can influence our blood sugar. But oftentimes I say to people, well, when was the last time you ate? It was several hours before. And that hunger signal or that low blood sugar signal can manifest as that craving. And so, what I often suggest is having a high protein snack in the afternoon, make it substantial, make it something that, fills you up, doesn't kind of leave you wanting more. But that by simply just having that afternoon snack, it's going to help with offsetting that cravings. And it might be a good time for you to just look at how the blood sugar piece is playing a role, not only for alcohol cravings, for food cravings, for stress, anxiety, etc., irritability. We often don't talk about how much that feeling of being
Hmm.
hangry, that so
Yeah.
many of us know, that like the Snickers bar commercial,
Right.
that's the good reference for us. But when we are in a state of low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, we are going to feel intense cravings. We're going to have a drop in energy. We're going to be anxious. We're going to be irritable. All of the things that oftentimes make us reach for a drink. So it's really about looking at what's going on in the body, listening to that signal, and starting to understand more about how you can use things like food as a natural tool to support this.
Right. Give me your maybe top three or top two afternoon high protein snack options that you would recommend.
Yes, well, I'm a big proponent of a smoothie in the afternoon.
Okay.
Not always a go-to for people, but you can put a lot in there. So you can put some protein powder, some chia seeds for fiber. You can get some fruit, some veggies. Again, it tends to be something that maybe fills you up a little bit more when you have that larger portion. I think it's a good way for people to do that. And if you're out and you're on the go, most areas you can find smoothie joints and things, or you can get a high protein smoothie, and it's a good option, especially kind of quick grab and go if you need. But I also am a huge proponent of a cheese plate and making, some aged cheese, some seed crackers, some accoutrements, whatever, if you like the dried fruit, if you like the nuts, if whatever it is, you want to add the gherkins or the pickles, but make it something kind of fun and exciting. So it feels celebratory, if you will, in the same way that maybe a drink would. And I think where a lot of us go wrong with the snacking piece is that it tends to be this kind of quick, small thing. Maybe it's a little boring. You just grab a handful of nuts, or you grab something kind of quick, and it doesn't really feel that satiating. And my suggestion is you want to start to feel satiated in the afternoon, because that's going to help.
Do you have a calorie range goal that you look for, or is it just that is it dependent, highly dependent on each person?
Well, I'm not a big fan of calorie counting, because I really believe it's so much more about the food, what we're eating versus how much we're eating. And I always use this example that 500 calories of a brownie does not equal 500 calories of broccoli.
Right?
500 calories of a brownie is like a little tiny square like this, and broccoli, it's 17 cups of raw broccoli. And the reason why I make that reference point is because they do very different things in your body. It would be highly unlikely that you would eat all of that broccoli because it would fill you up. it's full of
Right.
fiber. It's going to give you, it's going to,
Yeah.
you know, you wouldn't really be able to do it, but you could easily eat that 500 calories of a brownie. So where I'm more adamant is about getting the protein in. So trying to get 20 grams, 25 grams of protein in the afternoon is really going to be where I'd want you to look at numbers and trying to hit something that works for you.
Okay. Yeah, that makes good sense. Hey, it's Molly, here to talk to you about Sunnyside. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that Sunnyside is my number one recommendation for drinking apps that help you change your relationship with alcohol. I've been a Sunnyside partner for more than 3 years now, and one of the key reasons that I chose Sunnyside to be my app of choice is that they are really focused on continuous improvement, just like me. And for you, it is continuous improvement of the app in terms of how the customer is experiencing it. They've completely redesigned the progress tab from the ground up, which makes it easier for you to see your progress over time. They've introduced mini infographics to help you better see the big picture of drinks reduced and how dry days have added up since you joined Sunnyside. They have a dry day streak tracker now for those of you that are focused on taking a real extended break from drinking. And they intelligently surface trends in your data to highlight any positive things for you, and like a steady decrease in overall drinks over the course of time. These changes and these improvements are something that Sunnyside has continued to do ever since I started working with them. You can check it out over at sunnyside.co/Molly and get started on a 15-day free trial today. Let's talk about some supplements that might also be effective in terms of this whole conversation around GLP-1s, because there's natural supplements too that people can take that support GLP-1 in the body.
Yeah, so the big thing to understand is that we produce GLP-1 naturally, and it is produced by, or one of the key areas of production is in the gut and is in the microbiome, or is the result of what's going on in our microbiome. Now, when we drink alcohol, and Molly, you know, I talk a lot about the gut and how the gut is influenced by alcohol. But when we drink alcohol, it kills a lot of this healthy bacteria. It creates disruption in the microbiome, and that also influences natural GLP-1 production. And so when we are on an alcohol-free journey, or we are intending to cut back, that one of the best things we can do is support the gut, but this is also going to support GLP-1 production. So all good stuff to focus on the gut. And aside from, we'll talk about a few supplements, but even that aside, just enhancing or increasing your fiber intake is really helpful and beneficial because it helps to feed that healthy bacteria in the gut that help to produce GLP-1. So whether that is through more veggies, more fruits, getting in whole grains, sometimes I suggest a fiber supplement because some people struggle with getting enough in, and it can be really good for just enhancing bowel function and kind of regulation. So fiber supplement is a great way to go. But there are definitely probiotics to take to support this. There's actually a few brands that have these kind of GLP-1 probiotics, and the intention is that they contain a few different strains of bacteria that help with GLP-1 production. One of those is a strain called Akkermansia. You might have heard of that before, or you may start seeing it now that it is associated with this natural GLP-1 production. So a lot of it has to do with the gut and supporting the gut microbiome. But the other one I want to mention too is a supplement called berberine. It's been used many, many, many moons for blood sugar regulation. And some refer to it as nature's Ozempic. And berberine is an herb that not only helps with supporting blood sugar, but it does influence the gut microbiome as well. So some folks, depending on what's going on in their gut microbiome, will have some side effects, digestive issues as the result of that. So you just want to be mindful if you are going to take something like berberine, that it may have these kinds of side effects and things. So if you are someone with IBS or GI issues, maybe starting with the probiotics would be a better way to go.
Gotcha. I swear it seems to always come back to the gut. Honestly, that's what I feel like these days. Like there is such a direct correlation between, I mean, the gut brain axis, but our gut health is so important for really our overall health and well-being. And this all, it's all tied together, whether it's because your weight, obviously, it's, typically a reflection of your dietary intake and what that looks like. So I don't know, it's just fascinating to me. It's always the gut health is just become, I'm sure you feel like that too. I mean, I know obviously a large part of what you talk about revolves around gut health. So do you agree that that is just kind of like everything kind of like seems to be starting and ending in the gut?
Most things tie back to the gut in one way or another. And so anything, whether it be our metabolism, hormone function, whether that is our brain health, our mood, all of these things are linked to the gut and the microbiome, but also how we digest and break down food, because food and nutrition are a huge component of how the body functions, regulates, processes everything that's going on. And so it's really important to look at food. And, I guess I want to say too, to anyone who's listening, that if you have tried diet and exercise and not seen progress and have been kind of intrigued by these medications because of what they promise, I always caution people to look deeper into what's going on. Because typically when we do that, or when I work with someone who's struggled with weight loss in the past, there's something else that's going on in the body.
Yeah.
And if we address that, whether it's the gut, whether it is the thyroid, whether it's certain nutrient deficiencies that are playing a role. And once we find those things and unlock them, then we support the weight loss naturally. So it is something that, again, I think is really important to talk to your doctor about, talk to a healthcare practitioner that you trust, and see if this is something that's really right for you, versus are there other things that you could be looking into in the meantime? Because, weight and gut, yes, are connected, but also gut and alcohol cravings are connected. And so if you're having a lot of excessive cravings, again, addressing the gut might be something that's going to be more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah. I'm also really glad that you brought up the uh, now rampant accessibility of these GLP-1s through, online systems and online prescribers, and really at what I find to be like really scary about all that is it's at great cost, right? These are not typically covered by insurance for most of those online prescription services, and because and many insurance companies will not cover them unless there's a lot of stipulation around them. They either around diabetes or you have to have obesity plus, as you mentioned, additional risk factors. It is so prevalent, and I think it just falls right back into, like you said, that magic pill kind of theory. Is there danger associated with the products that we really don't have a long history for, in terms of, especially when it comes to just weight loss for people that are maybe not, not necessarily fitting the statistical models that would support taking it?
Yeah, and that's why I caution people to really work with their doctor on determining if it's right for them. Because if you have, I think the benefits need to outweigh the risks. And there are risks of taking these long term, including, the rebound weight gain is one. But again, where I see more clients having difficulties after having used them is having ongoing gastrointestinal issues as the result. And we're talking things like vomiting and nausea as a result of using it, um, the prevalence or the kind of activation of irritable bowel syndrome or these other kind of looser, kind of ongoing looser bowels or constipation that is as the result of the changes from the medication. And those are things that aren't being spoken about enough. You know, you hear, oh, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss,
Right.
small fine print that says there's these side effects, and it's not being discussed. So when you look at these online marketplaces where you can potentially get it prescribed to you, it is kind of bypassing in a lot of ways your entire health history. You know, you could come on and
Right.
you could say to this person, I have no health issues. I have no GI issues. I have no,
Right.
risk factors. And they say, okay, cool, here's the prescription. Go ahead and inject it. And that's where I kind of going back to the doctor or the healthcare provider who knows your history, who's able to talk with you about it. And, again, I think we all want that quick fix, that magic pill. But what has been seen in the past, every time there has been a magic pill, is that it comes out later on that that magic pill created
Isn't quite
some
so
kind of,
magic. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's getting into the root of it, but also not overlooking the fact that if something is not right in your body, that means that doesn't tell us we need the magic pill. It tells us we need to look deeper and find out what's going on. So that's really where I suggest let's look at what's going on. Let's run more labs and more testing to see what's happening in the body so that we can do this in a way that is not going to create as many of those long-term potential risks.
I couldn't agree more. So let's talk a little bit about about functional alcohol, your programs and the kind of the way that you support people to change their relationship with alcohol and any other stuff that you've been working on. You've been busy this last year. I told you that you've been busy, and so tell me a little bit more about what's been happening and what people can learn.
Yeah, well, functional sobriety is really its root cause approach to alcohol-free living. So it's looking at some of those underlying factors that haven't been addressed. So I'm a big proponent of running lab testing and looking deeper into what's going on. And because of the way that long-term alcohol consumption influences the body, I want to know when clients come into this process or this journey of quitting or cutting back, what's going on in the body, what do we need to address, and what is going to help you reach those goals that you might have. So that might be staying sober, it might be losing weight, it might be balancing hormones, it might be gastrointestinal health. And so what I like to do is we run blood work. Sometimes we run a stool test. Oftentimes I run micronutrient screening. So looking at all of the vitamins and minerals because those are so heavily influenced by alcohol. And it's really looking to unlock what are the challenges that you have and why are you experiencing them. So things like low mood or low energy, for example, can be the result of nutrient deficiencies. So instead of having to go drink another cup of caffeine, can we get you those nutrients that you need so that you're feeling energized and able to exercise, able to take good care of yourself? And so our programs are really designed to help people get more of that customized approach and understand more about what's going on in their body. We find that a lot of people have that kind of, they're alcohol free or want to be alcohol free, but they're also interested in improving their health. They want to know more about nutrition. They want to try supplements as an alternative approach to their healing. And so we see clients, we have online groups, but we also are, and this is kind of the first time I'm talking about this, but we're launching a practitioner training program later this year as
Oh,
well.
nice.
So for doctors, nurses, nutritionists, acupuncturists, any kind of healthcare provider who wants to know more about how they can support their clients from an alcohol free perspective, we're going to be launching that as well. So lots of exciting stuff happening on our end, but it's really all about getting this information in the hands of more people.
Nice. I love it. I really appreciate your expertise in this area, your perspective on it. It's always so wonderful to have you here and talk about this from such a, down to earth, rooted in reality kind of approach to changing your relationship with alcohol, changing your relationship with food, and just our overall health and well-being. So thank you so much, Brooke, for taking the time. And let's tell folks where they can connect with you best.
Of course, Molly. Thank you for having me. You can learn more about me and our programs at functionalsobriety.com and follow me on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. I'm not a TikToker quite yet, but I'm over on Instagram at Dr. Brooke Scheller.
Perfect. Brooke, thanks so much for being here. This is great information for, I hope all of you, if you're considering these, and I do want to say, and I think let's just end on this. Neither one of us are saying like, don't take these. It's just the advice is pretty simple. If you're going to take these, then definitely have that conversation with your primary care provider, with a doctor that, or an expert, a healthcare professional that you trust. And then make sure that even if you are, you still want to be doing all the work that you and I talk about in terms of long-term sustainable change and habits and what that means. And, eating great and taking care of yourself never goes out of style. So would you agree?
I 100% agree. And yeah, I think we can't, as much as the magic pill helps, it doesn't change our thinking. And so that's the important piece to remember too, that there's still some areas that may need to be supported in addition.
Yeah, great. Brooke, thanks for being here. And I look forward to our next conversation. I hope you'll come back again.
Of course. Thank you, Molly. Thanks for having me. And I hope your listeners enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. Take something you learned from this week's episode and put it into action. Changing your drinking habits and creating a peaceful relationship with alcohol is 100% possible. You can stop worrying, stop feeling guilty about overdrinking, and become someone who desires alcohol less. I work with people in 2 different ways, and you can learn about them over at my website. Go to www.mollywatts.com/workwithme or reach out to me directly. Shoot me an email, molly@mollywatts.com. We'll jump on a call and decide what might work best for you. This podcast is really just the beginning of our conversation. Let's keep it going. If there's one thing I know, it's that change is way easier when you stop trying to do it alone.